All right, we now have another 10 minutes, so we'll keep going. All right, so trust your friends. The sub-instance must be smaller and meet the precondition. Combine your friends' answers for your own answer. Focus on your own step. Don't talk to your friends' friends. Try small. You have to do small instances, your base cases on your own. Right? Everybody remember this? Right? So this is the kind of thing that for years I was getting from half the students. All right? When I say I give half the students a 0, it's because they give me stuff like this. Right? Now, I think I'm doing a better job of telling you what you're supposed to do, and so we get fewer and fewer of these. Right? So never give me something like this. Right? Or, right? Instead of 20%, you'll get 0. This is why I have the, do you know this? On blank, if you give a question blank, you get 20% on it, right? And why do I do that? Is, well, when I'm marking, the first thing I ask, if it's a wrong answer, I say, is this better than a blank page? Did they give, maybe they gave me some wrong things, they gave me some right things. Are they showing me something positive, right? If so, then they get a mark higher than 20%. But if it's really, really worse than a blank page, then you get a 0, right? And so this is just a disaster, right? Beyond disaster. So let's go over and see why it's a disaster, right? Well, my problem was I give you a tree and I give you a k, and you want to find the k smallest. All right? So why don't I just for a second tell you kind of what I expected from that. Right? This is my input, and I'm given a k, and I want to find the k smallest. Right? Well, I could call this guy and say, give me your k smallest, right? And if the number of nodes here is bigger than the k, it'll give me the answer, right? But what happens if the number of nodes here, nodes on the left, is smaller than k, right? Then I'm going to need that information over here, right? So I change the pre and post condition so that it returns the kth and it returns the number of nodes, right? So I ask over here, I give it k in the tree, and it tells me both, hey, if k is smaller than the number of nodes, it gives me the answer, right? But if it's not there, it also, either way, it returns me the number of nodes, right? So now what do I do over here? Now I give this guy k minus the number on the left minus 1, right? And he gives me both the kth if it's there, right? And returns to me the number of nodes, right? So then what do I have to return? I have to return the kth if we found it, and I have to return the number of nodes. Right? And why do I have a minus 1 here? Because it's the number of nodes over here we subtract and the root we're subtracting. Right? People follow that? So that is the kind of question. That's the level of difficulty what I have on the test. Right? Everybody kind of follow that? Do you think you could more or less do it maybe? Anyway, you better learn how to do that. All right? Yeah? No, because this is a course on a test on recursion, and recursion where you have a wall here, and you're only supposed to get a constant amount of information from your friend, and We don't want to change the whole data structure in order to answer this question. Yeah. Right? Everybody got that? All right, so now let's see what this guy's doing. Right? You might say, well, he's recursing on the left and on the right, and somehow I think he's counting the number of nodes, right? So now he thinks he knows and when I have my k, so now when the number of nodes I've seen so far is k, then I return, hey, the value at that node, right? So we can kind of see what the guy's doing, all right? But the mark they get is 0, all right? Because what we're trying to test is do they do recursion properly, right? So let's see if they did recursion properly, right? What are we doing here? What? I didn't. Oh yeah, people often do this, but right? They don't want to give me. I often find people say to me, "Do I have to do it your way? Because I want to do it my way. I can't do it your way." Those people always give me things that are wrong, right? The people who are able to do it my way. And the people who aren't able to do it my way do it wrong. All right? Also, I often hear people say, oh, I understand it, but I don't really know how to explain it. My experience is those people don't understand it. Because if you really understand it, you could explain it. Right? And so, anyway, here we want code. Right? Right here, and people say something here. Start at the leaf nodes and work the way up. That's not recursion, right? That's chatting about an iterative algorithm, right? All right, so let's go back to this. First off, what do we need? Is we need that when you recurse, you give your friend a smaller instance of the same problem, right? So here, they've included num and v, but haven't told me what they are. Right? I don't know what num and v are. But either way, you better recurse on them. Right? And they recursed, but they didn't give me k either. Right? So right there, they're wrong. Right? Everybody with me here? All right. Now, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to get the answer from your friend and combine your friend's answers to give your own answers, right? Here, he asked his friend for help, and whatever the friend returned, threw it in the garbage, right? Very rude. So you're assuming, well, they're expecting my friend to be doing what? My friend is doing something global that we don't know about, right? All right, so they didn't bother saving the results, right? We're supposed to combine our answers to get our own solution. That's certainly not happening, right? We're supposed to return things of the correct type. Well, what we're supposed to return is the value at a node, right? So maybe we're doing that, though the root here, the root of what tree? Is it the root of this tree? Are you assuming the root of this tree has the right, has the answer? It's not clear, right? But it has to be in every path. So here I'm returning, if k is 0, I'm returning a 0. But I don't know zeros in the tree. It could be that the data of the k smallest, maybe these are elephants that we're comparing, right? So I don't know anything about 0, right? Oh, and here, well, here we're returning the root of the tree. Here we're returning element. Which element? Right? Where did the element come from? Right? Element, is it the same as this, the element at the root? Right? All right, your sub-instances need to be smaller. So here's a test. Everybody look at this and tell me whether this code will halt. Right? We're recursing on smaller, yeah? right? Well, I'm giving my friend a left subtree and a right subtree, right? So that's smaller, right? So that's assuming my measure of size is the size of the tree. But what's their base case? Their base case isn't the size of the tree. The base case is the value of k. And k, well, we don't have a value of k, but it's certainly not getting smaller. Right? People see that? So their measure of size, right? Is it the tree? If the measure of size is tree, then your base case needs to be the size of the tree. And if k is your size, then k has to be getting smaller. Right? Everybody buy that? Now, I also said no global variables. So after we return back from this recursive call, what's the value of n? N is my local variable. Right? I'm not allowed global variables. Clearly, he's thinking n is a global variable. Right? But even if it's a global variable, I set it to be 0 here, so all my friends are setting it to 0. Right? So that's kind of weird. If we want it to be a global variable, we better set it to 0 before we start recursing on the outside world. Right? We can't set it 0 at every level. So even as a global variable, it's bad. But certainly, if we have no global variables, and n's not documented anywhere, right? So if you're going to have a global variable, it better be documented, right, so that we can understand what's going on. But, right, the value here is still going to be 0. We're going to come back, right? Doesn't change. All right, so no global variables. Maybe he meant n to be passed in and out, num, right? He never used num. Maybe n and num are the same, but why couldn't he give them the same name, right? And, right, that makes it look iterative, right? As soon as you do that, it looks iterative, looks recursive. Which is it? All right, that is us.